Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this community webcast that we are producing live on the afternoon of Friday, March the 27th, to talk about how we can engage and collaborate with the faith groups and nonprofits in the city of Mesa to respond to the coronavirus challenge that we're all facing. This is going to be a live and interactive broadcast, so I hope that those of you who are watching this live will take advantage of the technology that's available and submit questions. We're anxious to respond to what your concerns are and what your questions are. We've assembled, I think, what's going to be a very valuable program today with some community experts that are going to be able to offer, I think, some very valuable information to the faith communities and the nonprofits and the rest of us in the community that are anxious to be involved and be part of the response. I've always said that Mesa is a great combination of folks that have the ability and the capacity to help and people that need help. And like any other city, Mesa has strengths and weaknesses. One of our strengths as a community is our faith community and our nonprofit community. So I think we are well situated. We have the assets in place to really have a powerful response as a community to the challenges that are ahead of us. I'm going to take just a brief minute to update you on some of the breaking news, the new information that I've heard just this afternoon that to me just kind of drives home the urgency of this problem and the need that we have as a community to really respond in a very strong way. I was on a conference call this afternoon with the governor's office, and they gave us some updated statistics. As of today, Friday, March 27th, there are 665 confirmed cases in the state of Arizona. That's a 35% increase from yesterday. As of today, there are 13 deaths. That's up from 8 yesterday. So I think you can see we're starting to really get some, this virus is starting to get some momentum in our community and in our area. Some of the other things that the governor's office shared this morning is that they have approved an additional $5 million in eviction assistance funding. And the details of that are going to be available on Monday. So for those of you who are helping to help tenants avoid evictions, there's going to be some funding available for that. I think you know there's been a 120-day moratorium placed on that earlier this week, but some financial assistance is on its way as well. Also, for seniors over 65, they are freed from vehicle emission testing, so they can go ahead and re-register their vehicles online, not have to sit in lines or be exposed to being outside to re-register their cars. Also, the emphasis was put on a topic that we're going to discuss today in just a moment is food security. The governor's office wanted to be very reassuring that they are using the National Guard now to stock shelves and that the food chain is not disrupted. There's ample food. And hopefully the food will be more on the shelves once we get the National Guard to help do the stocking. As far as the city of Mesa goes, I want you to know that the Mesa City government is continuing to function well. Essential services like garbage and utilities and transportation are all working very, very efficiently. The city a few weeks ago issued a no shut-off order as well, so that those folks that are facing perhaps financial challenges related to the virus don't have to worry about losing their utility service. Our public safety departments are ready to respond. We have the emergency well, the EOC is open, but also we have the masks and the other material that our firefighters need to respond to the emergency, and we're getting more as we speak. There is not a stay-in-place order in the state of Arizona at this point, but there is a strong stay-at-home encouragement. And as a city, we're doing everything we can to particularly get our disconnected seniors to stay at home. There are, however, orders to close theaters and gyms, bars, and restaurants are takeout and delivery only. So that situation may evolve as time goes by. Well, let's get to it now. I'm pleased that we have with us today a good friend and a former council member, colleague of mine, Dave Richens, who's the president and CEO of the United Food Bank. Dave, just a few minutes ago, you were across the street at was a huge food distribution event. I know that you have really made some adjustments in terms of being able to do events like this in a very healthy way and to protect your volunteers and protect the public. Can you give us a little update on that?
You bet. Yeah, I can't say enough great about the city of Mesa right now. So proud to be a Mesa resident. The convention center staff, PD, public safety in general, fire, traffic, all stepped up, helped us to serve over 2,000 families at this distribution at the convention center. It's just wrapping up now. Lines got closed at noon. But it was really gratifying to see how many volunteers wanted to come out and help. We instituted a drive-through model because of the vulnerabilities of seniors that we have and those that have disabilities and other health issues. And so it enabled us to maintain a little bit better social distancing with the clientele that's most vulnerable. Volunteers, we were careful. We were checking temperatures. They were wearing gloves, masks where needed to make sure that we kept those volunteers safe. We've had an overwhelming response at our volunteer center for help, and people are coming. We encourage you to sign up at the United Food Bank website so we know that you're coming. Starting Monday, we're going to start temperature checking every volunteer that comes. We really need to double down on assessing risk and mitigating it.
You know, I'd like to just reinforce that if anybody in the back of their mind is hesitant to engage in being a volunteer, particularly in this situation, they really ought to put their minds at ease. I've been a part of the last couple of weeks' events that you've had, and hand washing and gloves and social distancing. As I've participated, I haven't touched anybody. Nobody's touched me. Trunks, food's gone into trunks. It's just been very hygienic and I think people that are there really felt like their health and safety was very much protected. So kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you. We pride ourselves on the cleanliness of our warehouse normally.
Yeah.
We're even doubling down on that. And so, yeah, sanitizing all the hand washing stations, the restrooms, anything that might get touched by a volunteer. We're also keeping the public out of the warehouse right now so we can minimize risk exposure.
Okay, so today, there was literally cars wrapped around for a block to get to this event at the Mesa Convention Center. And you're going to continue to do this event at this location for the foreseeable future. Is that correct?
Yeah, you bet. So we usually serve families. It's our Help Yourself program every Friday at our facility on Javelina Drive there at Mesa Drive in US 60. We typically see about 500 families. We saw that increase to 1,200 last Friday. You were at that event helping us distribute. We appreciate your help of you and your family. We anticipated some exponential growth to that. That facility just couldn't handle the social distancing the way we needed amongst the clientele. So we talked to the city of Mesa. You guys were willing partners to come and help us out so we could create a drive-through model at the Mesa Convention Center. So we're planning again to do it next Friday. We served a little bit over 2,000. We'll be prepared for that number as well again next week.
Okay, so if the faith groups or organizations that are participating in this broadcast want to encourage their parishioners or volunteers to support that, they go to unitedfoodbank.org. Is that correct?
Correct. That's a great place to get information. I want to emphasize that this is really geared towards low and moderate income residents. There are income qualification requirements. If you present yourself as hungry, we're going to feed you. But keep in mind that this food is USDA food. It's part of an emergency food assistance package. And we really want to reserve it for those that are low and moderate income. If you can afford food at the grocery store, we encourage you to continue to do so. Mm-hmm. Let this food go to those families that really have just lost their jobs. Maybe they're elderly and on a fixed income or sick or disabled.
So Dave, other than the Help Yourself event on Friday mornings, are there other ways that churches or nonprofits can have their own food events, that they can access food for distribution through their channels?
Sure. So we recommend using our established agencies now. So we have a whole network of over 60 agencies in Mesa now. If you go to arizonafoodbanks.org and put in your zip code, it'll give you a whole list of folks that already do distributions and the days they do them. There's different distributions throughout the city, 5 days a week. And I think there's even a few on Saturdays. So there's really a lot of established channels there. We don't have the capacity right now to add an individual distribution at an individual church. Please use existing channels, and that way we can continue to scale up with those people who are already used to doing food distributions.
So as we mapped out, I know on mesaz.gov/coronavirus, we put a chart up that has a pin for every food pantry that you and other agencies support, and it's really that the city is very well supplied with food pantries. So like you're saying, we don't need to recreate the wheel. We've already got 60 different agencies that are passing out your food above and beyond what you're doing on Friday mornings.
That's correct.
Okay.
Supply chains are intact. That needs to be emphasized. People are panicking and they're hoarding stuff, so you see some empty shelves, and we as Americans, we're just not used to seeing empty shelves. It scares us. But we have 35 truckloads of food scheduled for the next 30 days to come into our warehouse. We have had no cancellations of that supply chain. The grocery stores are the same way. As you mentioned earlier, the governor's called out the National Guard. They're making sure those deliveries are getting to the stores, and they were out today helping us distribute food over at the Mesa Convention Center. So big shout out to the National Guard and the men and women who serve our communities there. They've been a big help.
Okay. Well, Dave, thanks a lot. We'll continue to keep in touch. I know you are very closely connected to a lot of the folks that are participating in this call. They'll continue to get updates through you, but we really appreciate the way United Food Bank has stepped up and the amazing event that you had today and the way that I know you're going to continue to serve our community.
You bet. We're happy to do it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, as I participated in this event at United Food Bank this week and last week, I was really struck by the number of senior citizens that were standing in line, many of whom had obvious health problems. And it just struck me that really this is our most vulnerable population. These are the folks that we need to make sure aren't out standing in line at food banks. So in response to that, we've launched a program that I'm excited to talk to our next guest about, the Adopt a Grandparent program, and looking to partner with everybody on this call to respond to what we can do to help the seniors, the at-risk seniors in our community. But before we get to that, let me just, on food security a little bit, remind you that in addition to the great work that United Food Bank, Midwest Food Bank, and others are doing in our community, the school system is very much involved in providing to food and nutrition during this period of time. All of the Mesa Public Schools, elementary schools, and there's about 60 of them, every Monday through Friday from 11 to 1 are passing out sack lunches and sack breakfasts. So hopefully you and those that you work with are aware of that and taking advantage of it. Paz de Cristo, St. Vincent de Paul continue to do their great work. For social distancing purposes, they have shifted to a bagged meal as well. So please do what you can to make sure the folks that you're working with are aware of those resources in our community. Pastor Anderson, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Pastor Paul Anderson is the head of the For Our City program in the city of Mesa. It's a great, well, Paul, I'll do not as good a job. Why don't you just describe for us what the For Our City program is in the city?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mayor. For Our City, we're a group that really strives to have better community communication and collaboration to help address the issues in our community. So it's a group of nonprofit leaders, faith-based leaders, as well as just some civic and business leaders in our community coming together to address issues that have ranged in the past, from helping those that are facing homelessness to our veterans to our aging out foster care are just some examples of what we do, and just really trying to help drive that awareness and collaboration so we can help people as a community. So
Paul, you are a pastor, and I know a big part of For Our City is working with really kind of an interfaith assembly of the faith community. Is that right?
Absolutely. So it's definitely interfaith, all walks of faith, all walks of life coming together to do what we're called to do just as human beings, which is help each other out and share that community.
Well, as I indicated earlier, I think the faith community is really one of Mesa's secret weapons. This is really how we're going to, a big part of the equation as to how we're going to get through this challenge. It's important, I think, for the faith community to step up at this time and particularly take care of their own. The parishioners that they have in their churches, where they need to identify who the seniors are, particularly those that are a little disconnected, and really minister to them at this time. Have you heard of things that, or have thoughts on what churches can do in that context?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is exactly it. Priority number one is, as a church, take care of those that are in your church. Look over those, your database, your roster, your membership, and see who is it this kind of more vulnerable population, are those that are over 60, those that have health risks, et cetera. And let's make sure we're taking care of them, doing prescriptions, doing those sorts of things, helping them make it through this time so that, as you heard Dave and what United Food Bank is doing is amazing. But the last thing we want our vulnerable population is to be in that line. We should be helping them, picking up those food boxes for them, et cetera. And so definitely first and foremost, going through your list as a church and as volunteers and working through that.
Great. Paul, in front of us, we have some flyers that we were passing out at the food bank event today, talking about adopt a grandparent. Tell us what you can about this program.
Absolutely. So this is a great program that we're really excited about, and this is going to require really all of the churches, the faith groups, and the nonprofits here in Mesa to come together. And so we need your help. If you're one of those churches, one of those faith groups, we need the assistance of this. And what we're doing, and these flyers here, we're giving out this morning. And basically, if you are in Mesa, a Mesa resident, 60 years or older, we want to help you out. We want to step up and make sure you're taken care of. And so there's a phone number on the flyer that you can call and give all of your information to, and we're going to jump in and make sure your needs are met. And so what we're asking the churches to do is on a weekly basis, we are going to be distributing that. I'll be hosting calls with the churches, the 4 City Network, and having these churches and nonprofits adopt these grandparents. And that means that every week we're checking in with them. We're delivering food to their doorstep. We're delivering their prescriptions, all while practicing responsible social distancing. And I think that's an important part. We're not calling on people to go into homes. It's dropping it at the door. It's phone calls to check in to make sure their well-being is there. But as you said, Mesa's faith community is an amazing resource. And now is the time when we need our faith community to rise up even more and look out for those that maybe are not connected already to a faith community, that are vulnerable and need our help. And so this program is exactly that.
I think we've asked our faith community to somewhat stand down on their Sunday worship services. One thing we don't need is large groups of people coming together, even if it's for a great purpose like worship service. But we want our churches and our pastors and lay ministers to be, frankly, working harder now than they ever have in ministering to people, where they are, particularly the elderly. As I passed these out this morning, again, I was just struck by the fact I talked to seniors that were in active cancer treatment and people that are just very, very medically vulnerable. And if one of us gets the coronavirus, that's bad. But if one of them gets the coronavirus, that's really, really bad. I mean, the mortality rates among seniors with pre-existing medical conditions is not good. So I think we really need to prioritize as ministers and as human service providers in the city of Mesa, focusing on this very vulnerable population.
Absolutely.
So on this flyer is a couple of great numbers, and what this program seeks to do is assemble a list of these disconnected seniors. I mean, please take care of the folks you know about, but please help us find those that we don't know about. And then once we have that list assembled, we're going to rely on people like Pastor Anderson and for our city to step up to be the folks that will then, again, not physically interact with these individuals, but drop the food off at the door, ask if they can go pick up the prescriptions or do the things that might, tempt or provoke some of these at-risk seniors to leave the safety of their home.
Absolutely.
So we'll continue to push this out electronically. But Pastor, thank you for the way that you're helping to coordinate the faith community in our city. And we look forward to maybe sharing some ideas that might come through the faith community as to what pastors and lay ministers can do to further this effort. So thank you so much for being with us. And again, folks, we'll be providing this to you electronically, so there are some great phone numbers on here. The Area Agency on Aging number is great. That's a wonderful resource to rely on. And then the City of Mesa Neighborhood Services is going to help and engage to help assemble that list as well. I am pleased that we're joined by the Deputy City Manager, City of Mesa, Natalie Lewis. Natalie is a person who's very familiar with most of you on this call. She participated last week in the call that we had updating service providers on how the City of Mesa was responding. Natalie, I know you've been very busy this week. Thank you for being here. Obviously, the public health issue is being coordinated at places other than the City of Mesa, more of a national and state level. And we know there's a lot of funding that's coming through the state. Over $105 million right now has been allocated to the state for distribution to agencies and but also a couple of $1 trillion, you know, in the last few days from the national government. So, in addition to that, what resources does the City of Mesa have to inject into this situation?
Thanks for inviting me today. One of the things that we are looking at is the homeless population, and we're also looking at our great system of nonprofits out there that are out there doing this amazing work. And so we are looking at ways to help the homeless and to help our most vulnerable as a regional approach mostly, but we want to do our part. So while we're waiting for those federal funds, the state funds to kind of make their way to Mesa, we have taken a look at our own pots of dollars and federal dollars, and we've been able to find $1.6 million that we were able to pull to the side and to help get some of the money out into the community much more quickly. So that has been my focus in the last week or two, is really contacting our nonprofits, talking about their needs, figuring out how we're going to start solving homeless quarantine types of issues and isolation issues. And so that's what we're going to be doing, Mayor.
Sure. So a lot of the agencies and groups that are on the line today, they're used to going through the competitive process at the City of Mesa to receive funding to assist homeless issues and other community service issues. So we're not talking about that process. We're talking about above and beyond that normal process, which will go forward.
That's correct.
Is additional funding in the amount of $1.6 million, correct?
Yeah, the last thing we want to do is for these nonprofits who really rely on these dollars to say that we have to take those away. We're not doing that at all. That process will continue forward as it's planned. But what we are doing is taking these dollars that we have in addition and trying to get them more, because their level of need and assistance is going up, and we expect it to go a little bit higher. We want to make sure they have what they need to serve our community.
So for those who are listening that want to petition the city to be a part of that funding, what process would you steer them to? Contacting you via email directly, or is there a different way?
No, that would be great. If they could contact me by email, that would be fantastic. It's natalie.lewis@mesaaz.gov, and we can talk about what your needs are. I'm in the process right now of collecting proposals and getting to the facts so that we can make sure that the dollars are well used, not only for this emergency, but maybe even put in place new systems or new assets that'll help us in the long term.
Okay. So I know there's going to be an outpouring of compassion, particularly from the folks that we're talking to today, the faith community, the nonprofit agency. I think people are going to be tempted to want to do their own thing, you know, to pull up to parks and start passing out cheeseburgers or something. I mean, that type of compassionate response is something that we really appreciate and we want to encourage. But can you talk a little bit about, you know, maybe the healthy giving model and ways that maybe we might want to direct people to do something like that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mayor. There's tons of people out there that really want to help, but there are smart ways to help. And so in Arizona, we have a healthy giving campaign. And if you get onto the website and look at givesmart.org, you'll be able to see all of the different agencies that are part of this system, this service system that we have, not only in Arizona, but also in Mesa. One of the things that I know that we've been working with for a food provider is Paz de Cristo. And so the other thing that you could do if you wanted to do something on an individual level is they need things like bottled water, they need boxed foods, things that are like pastas, hamburger helper, peanut butter, and they also need plastic bags. So those plastic bags that we can no longer recycle, if people are collecting them and they want them to have a good reuse, we could bring those to Paz de Cristo because they're using them right now. The other thing people can do is give. We have a donation set up through the Mesa United Way on their website, so that would be another way to go. Okay. But yes, what we really want is for people to access the existing systems and the existing ways, because we're able to serve people much better and in a coordinated fashion.
So Natalie, a moment ago we were talking about, you know, the disconnected seniors and particularly those with health issues and how they are really a target population that we want to protect in this situation. We've been working on a strategic plan to address homelessness in Mesa. I know that's been a big part of what you've been working on the last few months. Obviously that problem and that population is also particularly at risk. During this period of time, how are we making progress on the shelter beds or the the quarantine space, for those folks that are, again, like our elderly. Many of the homeless are elderly, right?
Right.
What are we doing to address that population?
So in partnership with the public county health department, we are reaching out to all of the hotels and motels in Mesa. They're vacant right now. They're having a hard time, staying open and paying their staff. And so we've asked them if they'd be willing to allow us to use some of their rooms. And we've got at least 3 hotels right now in Mesa who are willing to work with us. So we are going to be using that space for quarantine space, in particular for homeless populations and also for populations of elderly or people with homeless people who have existing health conditions, so that we can quarantine and isolate them and make sure they're getting the help and the service that they need, because we have so many nonprofits, we have wraparound services. So that's what we're doing. We're also looking at increasing our emergency shelters. So we have existing partners such as New Leaf who are willing to add some additional capacity at existing campuses in the meantime, so that when we find people that might have not be asymptomatic or they might have tested positive and they need a place to be able to go and to rest, we can have a space for them while we're getting nurses to look at them and see what their actual needs are. So we're doing that as well, and we're working with the faith-based agencies, a couple of them out there, to create some dawn to dusk types of settings, so homeless populations and people have a safe place to be every night. And then we're helping with food supplies.
So if people want to know more about that, they want to participate, maybe they think they've got some space at their church or their facility that they could modify to participate in this, again, is the best thing to contact you via email to make those offers?
They could certainly contact me, or they can contact the Mesa United Way.
Okay, so Mark Young at Mesa United Way is up to speed, and he's been quarterbacking a lot of this response. We appreciate the way the Mesa United Way has responded.
Yes.
In the past, for folks that have been looking for things that they can do in their homes or their congregations, hygiene kits have been something that has been, something that can be done. Is now a good time to focus on something like that as well?
I think it is. I know that we're trying to make absolutely certain that we have enough of those types of supplies just for our first responders. And so if there are parishes and congregations out there that want to collect that, ask them to get in touch with me, and we will find a way to collect that and get that to not only to our public that needs it in our homeless population, but also to our first responders.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And again, Natalie isn't going anywhere. So please, as you have maybe in the days and weeks ahead, as issues come up, we're going to do our best as a city government to continue to update you on a daily, if not more frequent basis, and to respond as this crisis zigs and zags its way through our community. So please, if you've got some questions related to some of the things that we've talked about today, I hope you'll reach out to us through social media or emails. We are anxious to be responsive and to be timely in the way that we get information out and the way that we coordinate with our faith community and with the nonprofit community. And I want to make another last plug for please do what you can to help us find the disconnected elderly and at-risk seniors in our community. Many of you are doing a wonderful job working with those in your faith groups and in your existing customers, and that's great. Please do that, but I'm afraid we need to ask you to do more in this very unique situation that we're experiencing. Again, I was just shocked a moment ago when I was at Dave Richens' event to see all the seniors there that were physically struggling. And so this will be available electronically, and let's do all that we can to connect with the at-risk populations in our community. Well, I want to thank everybody for participating in this forum today. This is not the last time we'll do this. As this challenge persists in our community, we'll be reaching out like I say, probably weekly in an event like this, reaching out to the business community, the faith community, and others, just making sure that they have updated information. But also would ask you to please follow the mesaaz.gov/coronavirus website. That's updated at least daily with the most current information. Also, the City of Mesa social media sites. We'll do our best to daily or more frequently update those and to give you updates as to what is information we're receiving from the governor's office, from the White House, from health agencies, so that we have good, reliable information that we can share. Well, again, let me close by just saying thank you to the many in our community that are responding so courageously to this situation. We need your help. We need your engagement. This is going to be one of the larger challenges that many of us experience in our lifetime. This is an epic challenge, and so I know that the City of Mesa is up to it. And again, we appreciate your great response. We'll stay in touch. We hope that you will reciprocate, and please let us know how you're doing and what we can do to be of service to you. Thanks for joining us today.